from Acts chapter 25, verses 13 through 21. Yesterday, we saw Paul before the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem. A lot happens to Paul between that reading and the one that we're reading today. The Jewish leaders had plotted to kill Paul, and so it actually almost reads like some thriller novel. Paul actually finds out that they're plotting to kill him through his nephew, who happened to be there, just happens to overhear it. And so then Paul sends his nephew to talk to the Roman authorities, and then when they find out, they arrange for this elaborate plan to shuttle Paul out by night and get him to Rome safely. And so all of these things happen. When he arrives, he goes before the governor, who is Felix. And then Felix leaves him for a while, and then Festus becomes the governor. And both of these men kind of want to help the Jews out, I guess you could say. And so Festus asks if Paul will stand trial in Jerusalem. Well, Paul knows that's a death wish. He knows that they've plotted to kill him. As soon as he tries to make his way back to Jerusalem, he'll be a dead man. And so Paul, because he's a Roman citizen, appeals to Caesar. And so Festus sends him on to Caesar. But before he does, he happens to be visited by the Jewish king, King Herod Agrippa. And so when Agrippa comes, Festus gives Paul a chance to give a speech, if you will, before Agrippa. And that's where we find ourselves in today's reading. So Paul speaks to Agrippa, but he doesn't just simply share his story. He's not really as concerned about trying to convince Agrippa or anyone else of his innocence. What he's concerned about is that he has the opportunity to tell people about the Lord, to tell them about Jesus, to tell them about the gospel. And so he kind of loses himself in the speech, and he begins preaching to Agrippa so much that Agrippa asks him, "Are you trying to make me a Christian in such a short time?" To which Paul responds that I wish that not only you, but everyone who hears me could be just like I am, except for these chains that I'm in. What a perspective. What a perspective to put all of the personal ambitions aside and only think of the things that God has for us. You know, one of the things I think of when I read this story is why do bad things happen to good people? Here's Paul. All he wants to do is serve God. All he wants to do is be faithful to what God called him to do. And then all of this stuff happens. You know, he's being wrongly accused, he's being shuttled, he's in danger of being killed, all this stuff. Why do bad things happen to good people? You know, maybe for a few reasons. Maybe it's to enable witness for God. Maybe it's to touch the hearts of other people. Maybe it's to perfect us in sanctity and prepare us for heaven. It's probably all that and a lot of other things that we just may never really understand. Paul went through a lot of great trials, but through them all, he found a way to preach the gospel. You and I may not be called to the same things as Paul, but we are called to bear witness to the grace of Christ in all circumstances, no matter what we may face. Who knows how many souls will be touched by our response of grace? Let's ask God for His forgiveness for the times that we have failed in this endeavor to respond with grace. And then let's also ask Him for the grace to face all future trials.